paranormal peeps? Welcome to another episode of I Am Kenny Biddle, starring me and Albert Einstein. Who knew? Anyway, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about books. Why? Because I freaking love them. Love books. Books, the right books, give us knowledge. They teach us things. They guide us in our endeavors and events and hobbies and all kinds of stuff. And they entertain us too. And there are a few that suck. So, what we're going to do tonight, or today, this afternoon, whenever you're watching this, we're going to review some books. Now, I picked out from my large collection. Now, you see a few back here. These are a bunch of psychology books, science books. I got more skeptical science and really good science books up top. Let me show you. Up there. But that's not all. If you look over this way, you'll see, let me lift the camera up here, a whole lot of books. Whole lot. Let's fix the camera. Get you back here. Okay. So, as you can see, I have quite a few books. So what happened was, over the last couple of years, all the conferences that I've attended, not just ghost hunting conferences, but UFO conferences, because I also do photography work, analysis, and sometimes lectures for MUFON. I've done investigations with them and have lectured some of their investigators, field investigators, on what to look for in photography. So, all of these conferences and people I talk to online or Facebook and stuff like that, they've all asked for suggestions, like what kind of books do I read, to help get a better understanding of what's going on and what can help them. And on the other side of the coin, I get a lot of what should I avoid, those kind of questions, like what books out there just suck, and there's quite a few of them. So what I did over the last week was get a bunch of books off the shelves that really influenced me. On the good side, they've influenced me. They've taught me a lot about investigating and understanding details and concepts, how to test certain things, how to test claims, how to follow through with investigations and follow-ups. And then on the other side, there have been a bunch of books that I've absolutely hated, that I've heard people talk about, that I've gone out and got. I bought them myself, read them. Most of them I've literally thrown across the room because they've pissed me off so much. So, as a public service to you guys, I'm going to explain exactly why I hate them and why you should avoid them. Now, for a disclaimer, I'm going to say this is just my opinion, and you can take it or leave it if you want. Doesn't really matter. But it's just my recommendations, okay? So, let's see. I got my specialty, so we're going to enjoy that while we go through the books. So let's hit, let's hit the positive ones first, okay? Okay, the first book that I think you should go out and get as soon as possible, if you're a paranormal enthusiast, is Scientific Paranormal Investigation by Benjamin Radford. Now, Ben is a buddy of mine, and I love his work. I follow his work. I've been following it for years. He's the managing editor of Skeptical Inquirer magazine. He's also a columnist for LiveScience.com and Discovery News. He's been featured on a lot of programs. Different news, CNN, BBC, ABC News, the History Channel, Discovery Channel, what else? The Learning Channel, National Geographic. What the hell? Is there a network this guy hasn't been on? But that's not because he's showboating. He's not looking for fame. He gives his opinion. They come to him because he knows his shit. He really does. He's constantly learning, and he's constantly investigating and writing about this stuff. Now this book, I'll tell you why I like it so much. It's not just because it's filled with case files, like a lot of other books. There are case files in here, and he gives you the details on how he was able to figure out what was going on, either by natural occurrences, somebody orchestrating a hoax, or just mistaken identity, or what have you. He finds out what's going on. But he breaks down a system of investigating. using science. For instance, there's guidelines for applying scientific methods for paranormal investigation. What else does he have here? He goes through logical fallacies. He lists logical fallacies, and I mean, if you guys have any kind of brains, which I know most of you do that watch these videos, you know what logical fallacies are, and he explains them. He goes into great detail about what they are and how they're used, so that you know what you're looking for when you're, debating other people, ghost hunters and what have you. He goes into guidelines for skeptical paranormal investigation, and there's a lot of focus on details, making people clarify details, making sure their terminology is right, and letting them describe it to you rather than you giving them leading questions and kind of leading them astray, the way you think rather than what they think. It's a great book. It really is a great book. What else do we have? Oh, on page, 82, there's an excellent paragraph that I absolutely must read to you, because it states, I quote, one excellent resource for scientifically investigating unusual photographs and videos is a small book called Orbs or Dust, A Practical Guide to False Positive Evidence by Kenneth Biddle. That's me! That's just a little tidbit. It always gets me excited because I have to read that all the time. But it goes into a lot of detail. You can learn a lot from this. Just the general ideas, the explanations that he goes into, the research methods. It'll be beneficial to any paranormal enthusiast out there. I mean, I can't praise this book enough. I mean, you see all the tabs here. These are all just things that I want to reference constantly because it's such a good book. So I recommend you get this. There you go. The second book on our list of approved reading has to do with that mysterious phenomenon of psychic ability. Ooh. It happens to be the Full Facts book of cold reading by Ian Rowland. This book, I love this. I love this book almost as much as I love Ben's book, because it is just full of details. Like, all of this is just about cold reading, and it goes through pretty much every nook and cranny that has to do with cold reading. Everything that you go into a psychic for, and their abilities, like when you sit down, you think they know nothing about you, and all of a sudden you walk out there and you're like, holy shit, they know my whole entire freaking life, and everything, and this and that, and Aunt Betsy when she died of a heart trouble, and little Leroy, my cat, what happened to him. This explains it all. Now let me throw this out there real quick. It's not a book that disproves psychics. I don't want you to get that impression, because he clearly states that in this book. He's not about trashing psychics and saying that they simply don't exist. What he's doing here is explaining all the methods and techniques and skills that people learn, acquire, and employ in order to give the perception that they are gaining information from spirit worlds or spirit guides or auras and all that shit. Okay? It really goes into a lot of detail. I mean, we go through, let me see here. It covers some misconceptions that people have, for instance, when people say, well, they just read body language, and that's how they do it. There's a little bit of that, but this goes into explaining how that's really a misconception. There's other ways that they figure out information about you. But it goes into a setup. From the moment you walk in, they are sizing you up and figuring out what's going on. It goes through extracting information, facts, and events in your life, how to kind of guess them. I guess that is the best simple explanation for it. Elements about the future. It even has a chapter about coping with skeptics, and that's pretty much how to make a claim without making a claim. So you kind of protect yourself from people like me. There is a nice section about blocking techniques, which I've used all of these. Some of them before I read the book, and then all of them since I've read this book. And it's amazing, because now, and I'm sure there's a couple people out there that are friends that are psychics that know they've not been able to read me. And some have tried really, really hard. You just can't do it. Not saying you're not psychic. Well, yeah, I kind of am, but the techniques just don't work. One way that we go into about dealing with psychics is it's called giving up, and that's what it's called. And I'll read you the actual definition here. It's real short. If all else fails, the psychic feels that she or he is having a hard time. The simplest option is to stop the reading, give the money back, and move on to the next client who has a shoo-in stamped on their forehead, which pretty much means they move on to the next person that's going to believe anything that they say. This has happened to me quite often, where people have attempted to give me readings and failed miserably because I don't answer their questions. I don't give them any information. I basically sit there and just wait for them to tell me what's going on, and it never happens. So they wind up giving me my money back, and I walk away. They call me an asshole and continue on with other clients that believe them, and they think everything's fine. I walk away pretty much knowing that they're not psychic because they just can't do what they claim to do. But if you're interested, and you should be, get this book. It's really good, very detailed, and I highly recommend it. Alright, book number 3 on our list of recommended reading is BAM! Flim Flam by James Randi. I like this guy. I know some of you out there might not like him, think he's a little cynical, a little bitter, but you know what? The guy knows his shit. He knows all the details, he knows the ins and outs, he knows what to look for. And he's made a life of testing outrageous claims, and supernatural claims, and paranormal claims, and offering money. I mean, the guy's got $1 million challenge out there. And no one's been able to win it. And don't give me no bullshit that it's not fair testing. It is fair testing. Because both parties have to agree on the conditions before the test even starts. So, put that bullshit aside. Anyway, back to the book. This is a good book. It's an older book. I think it's one of his first ones. Let me see. It was, the 5th printing was in 86. It looks like the first one was in 82. So it's pretty old. But here's the deal. I got this and read through it. And it's basically him going through and investigating a lot of claims, a lot of famous claims. It covers investigations of all the details for those famous fairy pictures. Let's see. It goes into levitations and dowsing and psychic surgery. It goes into table tipping. It goes into a lot of these things, and it tells you all the details about what he found through research, what tests that he did, what tests he conducted with these people making the claims, all the details of it, all the controls, and that he's sure to tell you that both parties agreed to all the conditions, and when conditions had to be changed, he notes it and explains why. So this is a very good book on understanding defining terms, defining conditions, and making sure people stick with conditions. You know, if people make a claim like they can douse for water and they can find water, all right, define exactly what you can do. You know, can you find a jug of water? Does it have to be running water? Does the land above the water, if it's an underground river, does it affect it? You know, defining all these terms, and this explains all of these details, and it will give you a better understanding of how to investigate claims. Okay, book number 4 on our list of good books to get happens to deal with a place that's near and dear to my heart, and that's Fort Mifflin on the Delaware. It's a local place. I've been there dozens of times. I mean, I love the place, and I know some of the people that work there. It's really nice. It's a great fort, a lot of history involved with it, and according to some people, there's a lot of paranormal history with it. You know, there's ghost stories associated with it, bunch of ghosts. It's been written about in a few books. It has been featured in several TV shows, most of which have been pretty good. There's been like 1 or 2 shows that have kind of screwed it up, my ghost story. But a friend of mine, Anthony Saletti, wrote a book about it called Fort Mifflin, A Paranormal History. And this is what it looks like. Sorry, it's bleaching out, so you can't really see it too well. There's a lot of white around here. But basically, he did a excellent job of researching the stories associated. There's a lot of paranormal stories about it, and he went into detail with each story and found all the history, found the documents. This was great because I wrote an article not so long ago after an episode of My Ghost Story came out that really effed up the whole history. And this was a key information source for me for writing the article. But it's very detailed. It brought out some big details about major stories. For example, it goes into detail about the story about Elizabeth Pratt, who supposedly hung herself on the second floor of the officers' quarters. When you read this book, the research finds that at the time of her death, there was no second floor of the officers' quarters. The second floor wasn't added until 11 years after she was already dead. That's a big deal, okay? That's a major fact that up until this book came out, none of the paranormal groups that continued to investigate the place knew about. So they continued to do their ghost hunts and recordings and pictures and videos and stuff like that, and all blaming Elizabeth Pratt and Elizabeth Pratt's daughter for any activity that happened in that second floor, which they neither died up there nor lived there. So this is an excellent resource. I love this book. If you're from the area, the Philadelphia area, surrounding area, if you've ever been to Fort Mifflin or plan on going, I suggest you pick up this book, read it, and then go, okay? Because then you'll have a better understanding of what's going on. Okay, number 5 on the list of good books you should buy, is Why People Believe Weird Things. This is by Michael Shermer. He is, holy crap, what is he? He is the founding publisher of Skeptic Magazine, director of the Skeptic Society, and the host of the Skeptics Lecture Series at Caltech. This is a smart guy. Knows his shit. Okay? He goes into so much. I mean, I wish I was this smart. Okay? Because of the things he goes into, the psychology, the reasons why people believe in superstitions and pseudoscience and confusing ideas that people readily accept at face value. He goes into detail. This is pretty much an insight into people's way of thinking, into their minds, into the philosophies and the biases and misconceptions and perceptions of people that believe in weird shit. Or weird things. Sorry, my bad. But I suggest you get that. I'm not done reading this, but so far it pretty much broadens your perspective of people and how to relate to them and understand what they're doing. But I definitely think you should pick it up. I also think you should pick up, Skeptic Magazine, which he's the founder of, because it's an excellent magazine. I pick it up every time. Really good book. I really think you should pick this up. Okay, number 6 on our list of good books. This is called Ariel Phenomena by Antonio Paris. Now, yes, it's not ghost hunting. It's UFOs. I met Antonio at a MUFON conference. I believe it was in, where was it? Like Levittown, Bensalem, Pennsylvania. Met him twice, actually. Talked to him the first time, didn't buy his book. Second time around, the guy stood there and answered every question that I had. And we probably talked for a good half hour. And trust me, if you've ever talked to me at a conference, a half hour of putting up with me and my shit, that's a long time. Okay? But he was really professional. He was nice. He was informative. He knew what he was talking about. So that alone made me buy this. And I read through it, and it's great. It's case studies. And what it does is gives you the information. There's photographs in here. Again, it's getting washed out by the light. But they take a whole bunch of photographs that they were sent to analyze. And what he does is give you a detailed analysis of what's going on. Everything that they found out, any reports that they were able to pull up, agencies, government, news, whatever, that they contacted, what information they got. And it's great because they give you their findings. And instead of saying, well, it's an unidentified flying object or it's unknown, I mean, there's a few to say unknown, but most of these have explanations. Natural occurring or man-made explanations. Artificial satellite, reflections, lens flare, image artifacts. What else do we have? Man-made hoax. He tells you when there's a hoax. I love this. Balloons. Military blimp. What else? There's an inconclusive. They couldn't figure it out. But they didn't label it a UFO as an aliens. They said inconclusive because they didn't have enough information. Which is, I mean, that's great. That's the way critical thinking works. If you don't know, you don't just make up shit. That's why I have a lot of respect for this guy, and his work, and I'll continue to buy his work when it comes out because he really goes into detail and he doesn't bullshit you. Now I know most of the people out there that watch these videos, like all 6 or 7 of you, are mostly into the ghost hunting and paranormal aspect of it, but the information that you can get from here about photography can help you across the board. I mean, the analysis and skills that you'll learn about photography in here will help you with cryptozoology, Bigfoot and Yetis and stuff like that. It'll help you with UFOs research. It'll help you with ghost hunting, understanding what's going on in photographs. There's a lot of good information. I suggest you pick it up. If you know about a UFO conference or a MUFON conference in your area, I believe he's around here. Crap, I didn't look that up. But I've seen him twice at MUFON. Saw him in DC once for a lecture by Sharon Hill, which was awesome. So I know he's in the local East Coast area. So look him up. Get this book. Give it a read. Okay, the last book on our list of good books to get, at least for this time around, is Investigating the Paranormal by Joe Nickell. Now, I don't have it here with me, and the reason is my mom has it. That's honestly, she comes over, she sees my books, she loves the stuff, so she borrows one, takes it home, reads it, and then grabs another one. But I happened to be just finished that one, and she stole it, and she's currently reading it. But I'm going to throw a picture up there so you know what it looks like. Boom! So there it is. That's what it looks like. I suggest you go out and get it. Why? It's filled with a lot of cases. Now, Joe Nickell he's very detailed. Guy knows what he's talking about. He travels the world, like literally, and gets paid to investigate these claims. A job I would love, because it's a real he's like one of the few genuine professional paranormal investigators. Him and Ben Radford, they're the only two I really know that are professionally paid investigators for this kind of stuff. Dream job. Back to the book though. He goes through case by case, like ghosts, monsters, religious mysteries, bleeding statues, stuff like that. Just strange phenomenon that he investigates. He goes into detail. He tells you exactly what he does, how he researches, what he researches, pulls the details together, pulls from psychology, pulls from forensics. He has a lab that he can work at, that he can test samples of statues and other miraculous items that are claimed to have powers. He can test all this stuff. It's great. I mean, I love his job. But it's a good book in that it's not just stories, as in like a lot of the ghost stories that I have, the books. They're local stories. These are actually cases with all the details, and it teaches you how to investigate, what details to look for, what questions to ask. Just things that you would never think of. I mean, I read through the book, and almost every chapter he would ask a question where I'm like, shit, I didn't even think of that. That was good. And I'd underline it, highlight it, and I'll reference it later. But it was really good, and I really suggest you go out and get these books. So, with that said, that's 7 books that I highly recommend that you go out and get and read and carry it with you and take it with you and ask questions, because they encourage critical thinking and asking questions and learning every day. And that's like my mantra: learn something every day, because that makes you a better investigator, and it makes the quality of your work that much better. Because the more you learn, the more you know, the better your work. Woo! Okay, so now we're going to be flipping the coin here. Okay? We had 7 books that were great, and I highly recommend it. Now we're going to go to 7 books that I absolutely think you should avoid at all costs. Don't pick them up at flea markets, even if they cost a quarter. Don't take them if they're for free. Just throw them into the campfire. Let them burn. Okay? That's how much I don't like these. And again, this is my opinion. You may have a different opinion. And if it does, I don't care, because I don't like these books. Okay? So let's get started. Okay. Now, these reviews are going to be probably a little bit longer, because I'm going to go into some detail of exactly why I don't like these things. So, the first book on this list, and you guys should laugh, is The Orb Project. Oh my god. This is, I'm gonna butcher these names, and I apologize, because I don't really mean to. Mikhail Ledwith and Klaus Heinemann, okay, wrote this book. It's basically 2 books in one, because both guys wrote their own book, and then they just smashed them together. This book is so fucking horrible. Seriously. I regret buying this, because it was money that I just wasted. It was, how much did I spend on this? Holy crap, I paid $19 for this? Ugh. Anyway, so let's go over some of the things that really pissed me off about this. I have tabs here, so I'm going to cheat. Okay, there's a quote in here, and he's talking about orbs. The whole thing's fucking orbs. And I'm sorry if you hear a lot of F-bombs, but, you know, if you ever watched my other videos, you know I hate orbs, so they really piss me off. The quote here is, let's see. Some individuals maintain, for example, that all orb pictures can be explained away due to moisture, particles, spots on the lens, dust, or pollen particles rising from the unpaved roads or grass we have just walked over, stains coming from the film processing, flaws in digital camera technology, optical lens flares, or bokeh, a Japanese word meaning blur, referring to a picture's out-of-focus areas. Most of the published literature is neither friendly nor scientific. You know why? Because orbs are fucking dust, and bugs, and pollen, and spots on the lens, and moisture. All the shit that you listed here, that's what orbs are. So, of course, all the literature published is not going to be friendly towards it, because we know it's bunk. He goes on to add that had the authors access to better data, such as presented in this book, rather than their limited selection of images, it would have been interesting to know their assessment. Well, I'll tell you what my assessment is. Orbs suck monkey butt. That's it. Seriously. All the evidence, and we've gone over this before, all the evidence points that orbs are not spiritual, they're not ghosts, demons, or fairies, or pixies, or anything like that. Ugh! It's a natural phenomenon. Get over it. And these are guys that call themselves doctors. Oy. Let's see. What else can we pick on? Because there's a lot in this book that really pissed me off. Holy crap. Pictures. Pictures. See that? Yeah. That's the kind of pictures he has. And let me read the caption to you. Because the sphere's edge is clearly defined, these orbs are easily mistaken for water droplets. You know why they're mistaken for water droplets? Because they are water droplets! Pictures. Pictures of what happens when you're outside when it's raining. You get orbs. Here's another caption of an image that I'm going to read to you and then show you the picture. This will be cool. Moisture in the air often facilitates abundant manifestations of orbs. In these conditions, care must be taken not to mistake fog particles for the true orb images. This photograph shows orbs in fog. Their interior features offer a clue that they are authentic orbs. This one, right there. All these orbs. Because there's moisture in the air. Because you're taking pictures of fog with a flash. This book is pure crap from a dung beetle. Okay? So basically, if you do the math, this is poop from poop. That's what it boils down to. I can't put into words exactly how much I hate this book. It is extremely unscientific. It's filled with nonsense and pictures of rain and dust and pollen that they claim to be otherworldly entities that are communicating with them. There's also several pictures in here where they claim to have vortex forming. I'd show you, but it gets washed out because of the light. But taking measurements on the images, I have found that all the ones that they said have a vortex are in the same exact position according to the picture, which means to me there was something on the lens. And from what it looks like to me, it was deliberately put there. Okay, so yeah, in my opinion, they produced images deliberately for this. And they have no concept of what's going on. I can't believe that somebody would write an entire book like this based on orbs. I hate it. Alright, book number 2 on our list of books to avoid completely at all costs under penalty of death is The Complete Approach, a scientific and metaphysical guide to the paranormal by Barry Fitzgerald and Dustin Parry. This is a horrible book. Basically, in the title it says a scientific and metaphysical guide. Okay, there is absolutely nothing scientific about this book, nothing at all. It's basically what you see on TV when you watch the unreality Paris shows, and they say they take a scientific approach, and you know they're full of shit. That's what this is. Okay, I have probably about a dozen books, how to ghost hunt books, up on the shelf over there, that pretty much are carbon copies of this. Okay, about equipment and what you should look for and investigating, and it's really not good investigative skills. It's the same shit you see on TV over and over again. You know, turn the lights out, let's do EVP session. The metaphysical aspect of it is fantasy. It's pretty much made up shit. There's no evidence to back anything they say in this. There's no evidence at all. They're basically just, making stuff up, writing it down, and they're selling it because one of the guys is on a TV show, or was on a TV show. It's a horrible book. There's a lot of grammar mistakes in it too. At times it was very hard to read. And I had to put it down and walk away because I was getting so frustrated with it. It's just, it's a waste of time. Don't bother. Hopefully you can't buy this anymore, which is a good thing. That would be a great thing. But if you do see it, avoid it. Just buy something else. Buy a comic book or, like a cooking book or something like that. That would be much better and more beneficial than this thing. Okay? So, that's it. Okay, bad book number 3 on our list is Ghost Hunting. True Stories of Unexplained Phenomenon from the Atlantic Paranormal Society by Jason Hawes and Grant Wilson with Michael Friedman. Yeah, I don't like this book either. And one of the big things, I look at pictures. I do photography. You guys know that. I love photography. I do pictures. I do a lot of consultant work for it. I opened it up to the middle section here, where there's pictures, and it's very, very disturbing to see pictures like this with the caption. Let's see, what's it say? Jason thought he was alone. This picture would seem to indicate otherwise. You know why? Because there's a shadowy hand on his shoulder. But yeah, well, this is what's called a long exposure, as in many other pictures. The one on top of this page, that page too. Wow, look at that. This is called painting with light. It's what happens when you combine a long exposure with a flashlight, okay, and somebody walking up the stairs. Yeah, I love the caption with it. A bizarre trick of light or evidence of supernatural entity. You be the judge. Yeah, bite me. Okay, it's a long exposure. A lot of these are long exposures that are deliberately put in here. These are not by accident. And you know what? This is all my experience as a photographer, coming out and looking at these pictures and saying these were staged. I have no doubt about it that they were staged, and it's just horrible. Most of the text in here is about cases that they've done, and it's weird because, like, you know what? There's a quote in the back that really set me off. Let's see. Actually, there's two, I think. One is from Grant Wilson that says, "And we're still dedicated to our mission of putting paranormal investigation on a scientific footing, so that it can finally get the respect it deserves." Scientific footing, huh? And that goes into another quote that's later on. Let's see, who did that one? Let's see, what's it out? "We approach ghost hunting from a scientific point of view. Therefore, we go to great lengths to ensure the integrity of our documentation." Now, they keep talking about science. You know what? This whole book here, okay, there's one little chapter on the scientific approach, okay? You know what's wrong with it? It's 4 fucking paragraphs long. That's it. 4 paragraphs. This page right here is their scientific approach. That's their explanation. The rest of this shit is just their bullshit case studies. It's horrible. One of which I really had to find, I really found entertaining and funny, is because it's called, it's called The Bet, and it's about the lighthouse incident that they actually filmed, where Grant goes upstairs and he sits in a chair, then he gets up for no reason and walks away, and the guy that's hiding on the stairway pulls a little fishing line and moves his chair, and they think it's a ghostly event, you know, like ghosts are moving his chair and all that stuff. It's just, the whole book, it's just like your TV show. They're staged shit. They talk about doing science when they don't. They don't have a clue. You know, science is the best way to investigate these things. The scientific method and critical thinking, but they use none of it. And just from the fact of knowing that they stage shit, I can't recommend not getting this book any more than saying, don't buy the book. Okay? Don't. Wow. Alright. Number 4. This book was brought up by an acquaintance of mine that is a paranormal investigator, and he asked me to read this and give my opinion on it. I have not finished this book yet. Okay? I want to make that clear. I have not finished it. I'm about, I would say, a third of the way through. I skipped around a little bit because I just couldn't take some of the shit. And I'll explain why. This is the Everything Guide to Evidence of the Afterlife. A scientific approach to proving the existence of life after death. That's key here. A scientific approach. Oy. It's by Joseph Higgins and Chuck Bergman. Both guys are psychics, professional mediums, and I really have. It was a struggle because I tried desperately to put aside my bias, because two psychics writing a book about the scientific approach, they don't connect. They don't go together. But you know what? I said I'd read it, so I bought the book and I started reading it and got pissed off. Surprise! Why? Because, well, for one, I had to go 51 pages in before any mention of science was made. And then, as you can see here, plenty of notes, because I have a lot of issues with it. They like to cite scientific papers, or I don't even say that because I don't know how valid that is all the time. They like to take papers that are published in journals, and they have a habit of quoting the abstract of a paper. If anybody knows, if you're not familiar with that, the abstract is pretty much a summary in the beginning of a paper that's being published that tells you what is going to go on. It kind of summarizes the entire paper and lets you know what you're going to read, and then it goes into a lot of detail. The problem is that they take these quotes out of context. They're cherry picking these quotes. They're leaving lines out that really make a difference as to the context of these quotes, and it changes the context, which makes it sound like it's backing up their theories, but it's really not. This book is really as far as I've read, it's a testament to cherry picking research. That's basically what it comes down to. Picking little parts of scientific papers and only picking the parts that support your cause, and then ignoring the ones that refute it. Okay? This goes on a lot in here. Basically what it comes down to is, in my opinion, these authors are banking on you not checking their sources, verifying the information. They don't want you to do that, because if you do, you're going to find out that some of these journals aren't exactly respected. A lot of this stuff is taken out of context. You know, it meant to support other ideas, or a lot of the history, like the pertinent information about statistics and how many people were actually tested and their biases and their background are left out, because once you find out that information, it's very damaging to the point that they're trying to make. It actually refutes a lot of the points that they're trying to make. One of the chapters that I didn't get to is actually titled Unraveling String Theory. I didn't get to that yet, but my first thought, and it's still my thought, is that if I'm going to trust anyone to unravel string theory to me, to explain it to me, it's going to be a physicist, not a medium, not a psychic, that has, as far as I could find, no scientific background. You know, so these guys unraveling string theory, no. And based on what I've read so far, I wouldn't trust what they were giving me anyway. There is a section in the back about skepticism, about the afterlife, and they deal with skeptics. They talk about skeptics, and you can pretty much tell that they don't like people like me. And I'm going to read you a quote here that pretty much sums it up. When skeptics conduct experiments to verify others' findings, their mental makeup will give them different results. For example, a debunker is more likely to reject the results of a psychic observations even if they were positive, saying that the experimenter was probably a fraud or unqualified. Closed-minded skeptics see only parts of the jigsaw puzzle because of the conscious deletion of segments of knowledge. They are unable to see the whole of it because of their attitude of disbelief. Bullshit. Okay? Skeptics, real skeptics, want the truth. Okay? We don't go into this bullshit where we consciously delete stuff. We don't freaking cherry pick. That's not what we do. We look at all the information, all the data, all the details, and then make a determination from that. That's what we do. And this quote is hysterical because it basically explains exactly everything I've read in this book so far. They are consciously deleting important information. They're keeping it from you, the reader, so that they can prove their point. When in actuality they can't. They also have this is funny too, they also have a section about paid psychics in the industry. And I'll read you something they say. These days, many skeptics are actually paid by those with a vested interest to express their opinions publicly on television, radio, online, newspapers, and magazines. Most recently, it is suggested that many climate change skeptics are paid by oil companies to express their opinions openly. This is like a car salesman tactic. It's really bad because they're trying to paint skeptics as evil people. And it's not. It's not. Cynics are, cynical people are assholes. But skeptics are not. We look at everything, and it doesn't matter if they're paid. That's the funny thing. He's complaining, these guys are complaining about paid skeptics when they're paid mediums. So where the hell do you get off? Paid skeptics? Yeah, if they're going to go on a show and give their opinion, they should be paid. For their time. Though I'll do it for free, so if you want me to go on your show... No, I don't do that shit. But, the bottom line, this book, piece of crap, in my opinion. I hated the other books because of bad information, deliberate bad information. And this is deliberate cherry picking, as far as I'm concerned. So, it's a horrible book. Don't waste your money. This was like... How much was this? $16. I spent a lot of money on crap. Alright, so don't buy it. Book number 5. Ooh. On the list of books to never ever pick up and purchase, because I'm the dumb one that does it for you, is Ghosts Caught on Film. This is pretty much a collection of photographs that are throughout history, and just showing different things. This, wow, camera strap. But they tell a little story about it on the one page, and they show you pictures, and it's just, for the most part, he does a horrible job. I'm sorry, this is by Dr. Melvin Willen. And as I was saying, for the most part, he does a horrible job of explaining what these pictures are. He basically either goes along with what the story says they are, or he kind of plays that, both sides of the fence thing. Well, it could be this natural explanation, or it could be this supernatural explanation. You decide. That's the kind of bullshit that's in this book. But a lot of this is filled with long exposures. Long exposure. What else? Long exposure. Long exposure. Long exposure. Whole bunch of long exposures in there. Some are direct hoaxes. Deliberate hoaxes, not direct. What else do we have? Pictures of water. A water fountain. Yeah, I'm from Philly. We say water. And they're claiming it's the Virgin Mary. Come on now. It's just... Basically, all these pictures can be seen online. You don't have to buy this book. And this book was... How much was this? $17. I really have to start a new hobby that's not as expensive. All these pictures are online. You can find them. You can look at them if you want to. You can save them to your computer and print them out, so you have them. You can save all of them, print them all out, and make your own book. So boom, there you go. Waste of time though. Don't even bother. And there's sequels. I have them too. Just as bad. They're really not good explanations about the photography and what's going on. They're just kind of like, hey, you know what? Buy this because it's a whole bunch of pictures. So don't waste your time. Book number 6 on our list of books to never, ever, 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 ever buy is How to Hunt Ghosts by Joshua P. Warren. Why do I hate this book? Well, for one, it makes a lot of assumptions, and it presents them as facts. I mean, the guy talks about auras and what all the colors mean. Sorry, auras are bullshit. Never been proven, and I'm pretty sure they never will. Talks about telepathy, telekinesis. It just pretty much generalizes a lot of things, assumes a lot, but presents them as facts, which is wrong. Something else that really bugs me about this is that he totally promotes orbs. Yep, orbs and automatic writing, pendulums, dowsing rods, mists, all kinds of crap like that. Unproven, unscientific, and orbs. Ugh, I hate orbs. And it's funny. I mean, one of the assumptions that he makes about orbs is as follows, and I quote, drops of moisture, like dew or rain, can contaminate a picture as well. However, a trained photographic eye can usually rule out these things easily. This is especially the case when it comes to orbs caught on video. The manner of their behavior is sometimes truly mind-boggling. No, it's not. Dust, bugs, have no rules on their flight patterns. Okay? They will move around. Oh, it's unreal that this guy expects to be taken seriously when he's talking about orbs. Yes, I'm very biased. I do have a bias against people that believe in orbs, because there is no evidence, and I've said this 1,000 times, there's no evidence that orbs exist as entities or ghosts. They are camera tricks of light, of perspective, of focus. That's what they are. As for the rest of it, like I said, it's pretty much like any other ghost hunting 101 book that's out there, that you'll find in Barnes & Noble or on Amazon. It goes through all the same stuff. I mean, you pretty much can, if you rip the cover off and just read most of the stuff in here, you wouldn't be able to tell which book it is. So it's a carbon copy, and it makes a lot of assumptions. It really does. It presents too many things as facts when they're not. Okay, we are at the last book on our list of books you should never, ever, ever, ever want to own. Ever. And it has to do with Gettysburg, a place that I love to visit. This is called The Battlefield Dead, and it is by Elizabeth Matusiak. Now, I met the author many, many, many years ago, and she was somebody that went out, ghost hunted almost every night, collected stories, and what she did was she wrote about her personal stories, and she retold stories that were related to her. And well, the fact that she goes out and ghost hunts kind of killed it for me on page 1, because she I'll read you the quote. Okay, first 2 lines. It was a perfect night for a ghost hunt. The moon was full and the fog lay covering the ground. Fog. That's not a perfect night for a ghost hunt. Why? Well, I don't know. We take a camera out. What happens when you take a picture of fog with a flash at night? Orbs and mist. So no, not a perfect night. And I remember vividly reading those first 2 lines and then closing the book, tossing it across the room, because I thought, I'm not going to like this. But I picked it up later on, and I read the rest of it. And I have to tell you, this is the most boring, uninteresting ghost story book I have ever read. Ever. And I like ghost stories. Yeah, I'm a big skeptic. I debunk a lot of stuff. I explain a lot of things. I analyze photographs and find natural causes and this and that. But I love ghost stories. I have 60, 70 books up on these shelves that I showed you earlier in the beginning of the video that are nothing but ghost stories from local areas. Every time I travel, no matter where I go. I go to the bookstore. I go to the flea markets because they're a great place to get books. And I pick up local ghost story books. And I love to read them. A lot of them have history in them. They're entertaining. This one sucked. It was horrible. They just lacked any kind of ability to keep your interest. I had to force myself to read through it. And it didn't help that all these pictures that are in here, some of them are just the areas, but a lot of them are presented as ghost photos. And I can't... pretty much what sums up the ghost photos in this is pareidolia, which is, seeing things that really aren't there. It's just a pattern in the background. You're seeing faces and figures. And mists. Love mists. Mists. It's what happens when you go out and it's chilly outside and you breathe. And then use a flash camera. You get these kind of pictures. And they're throughout it. You can tell that it's not a photographer that analyzed these photos. And it's a shame because it just kills it. I didn't want to read it anymore. But I did because I needed to review it and tell you how much I did not like it. So, that's it. I really have nothing else to say because I don't have anything nice to say about this at all. And that sums it up. Okay, that's the end of the video. I hope it wasn't too long. I hope it wasn't boring. I hope you got some good ideas for books that you want to get. And then I hope I helped you avoid some rather unpleasant books that you would waste your money on. If you have a book, now yeah, there's going to be a cheap plug, but if you have a book and you would like me to read it and give you my opinion, I can do so privately, or I can do so in a review. Makes no difference to me. It's up to you. But if you're interested, send it to me. Send me a message. I'll send you my address. You can send it to me, and I'll review it. I'll give you an honest opinion on what I think about it, and we'll go from there. Also want to make clear again, these are all my opinions. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. If you want to argue with me, whatever. I'm not really going to argue. It's not worth my time. This is just what I thought of these books. I'm sure the authors might get pissed off if I didn't like your book, give you a bad review, but oh well. You know what? Make a better book, and I'll give you a better review. If you have any complaints or threats, you want to trash talk me, whatever, please contact Lou Castillo in California. He is my personal Mexican, and the official Mexican of Club Awesome. He will deal with you in a way that only Mexicans can. And I believe that involves burritos with extra cheese. You can find me on Facebook at I Am Kenny Biddle. You can comment in the section below, but if it's on YouTube, I'm not going to see it. Your best bet to get a hold of me is on Facebook. If you have any topic suggestions, please send me a message. If you like the video, great. If you don't like the video, don't tell me. Okay? Until next time,